I do believe that we must be aware of the dire consequences of selfishness and cynicism. President Trump sought to overturn the results of an election, and of a fair election. President Trump is a failed leader. He will go down in history as the worst president ever. The good thing is that he soon will be as irrelevant as an old tweet. I will remind them of what Teddy Roosevelt said. Patriotism means to stand by the country. It does not mean to stand by the president. President Trump, I just saw your press conference with President Putin, and it was embarrassing. I mean, you stood there like a little wet noodle, like a little fanboy. I mean, I was asking myself, when are you going to ask him for an autograph or for a selfie or something like that? I mean, you literally sold out at this press conference our intelligence community, our justice system, and worst of all, our country. You're the president of the United States. You shouldn't do that. I mean, what's the matter with you? I mean, whatever happened to the strong words or to the strength of Ronald Reagan when he stood there at the Berlin Wall and he said, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall? What happened to all that?
Arnold Schwarzenegger and Donald Trump went from being friendly allies to full-blown rivals. But this time, Schwarzenegger didn't just take a jab at Trump, he absolutely roasted him on live TV. The former governor of California, action superstar, and seven-time Mr. Olympia didn't just criticize his fellow Republican. He terminated him with the precision of a T-800. Gone are the days when these two powerhouses shared friendly smiles at glitzy New York parties. These former NBC stars have turned their reality TV rivalry into a real-world political showdown that's more gripping than any Hollywood script. Remember when Schwarzenegger said, "I'll be back"? Well, he just came back with a vengeance, and Trump might need more than a Twitter account to recover from this one. Let's break down how the Austrian oak just schooled the former president in a masterclass of political takedowns. Trust me, this is one political confrontation you don't want to miss. And unlike the last action hero, it's actually worth watching.
I was born in 1947, 2 years after the Second World War. Growing up, I was surrounded by broken men drinking away their guilt over their participation in the most evil regime in history.
Back in the 80s, New York socialites was quite a scene. Arnold, fresh off the success of Conan the Barbarian and The Terminator, was rubbing shoulders with Manhattan's elite. Trump, meanwhile, was the headline-grabbing real estate mogul who never met a golden door handle he didn't like. They'd cross paths at various high society events, probably exchanging pleasantries while comparing hair products and power handshakes. Their paths would continue to intertwine through the 1990s, though mostly at arm's length. The real twist in their relationship came years later with NBC's The Apprentice franchise. Trump hosted the show from 2004 to 2015, turning "You're fired" into a national catchphrase. In a plot twist worthy of a Hollywood script, Schwarzenegger would later take over as host in 2017. Though by then, their once cordial relationship had taken quite a different turn.
Said you called him. Now that means you must have his phone number. Are you guys friends?
We have been friends for many, many years, for decades as a matter of fact.
Well, why is he so mean to you?
We run into each other in professional wrestling. We have run into each other. As a matter of fact, he was wanting to contribute to my campaign when I ran for governor. And the only thing why we didn't accept his money was because it was from a gaming casino. And I didn't accept any money from gaming casinos and from gambling and from unions and so on. So I had a certain list of things where I didn't accept any money. But so we had a very good relationship.
By 2015, the Arnold-Donald bromance finally hit the rocks. Hard. Like Terminator meets Wrecking Ball hard. It all kicked off during the Republican primaries when Schwarzenegger, still a heavyweight in California Republican politics, threw his support behind John Kasich. Arnold praised Kasich's track record as Ohio governor and his ability to work across party lines. Trump, naturally, took this about as well as a bodybuilder being told the gym's closed. Not great. However, the real drama exploded in October 2016 with the infamous Access Hollywood tape. When that bombshell dropped, Arnold, who had his own share of past controversies, faced a crucial decision. In a move that probably had Trump reaching for his Twitter faster than Arnold could say "hasta la vista," Schwarzenegger publicly announced he would not vote for Trump. The first time in his American life, he wouldn't vote Republican.
The fact that I didn't vote for him and that I came out and said I'm not going to vote for him and I would urge others not to vote for him.
This led to one of the most entertaining Twitter feuds since, well, ever. The Celebrity Apprentice handover turned into a ratings war that made the Cold War look like a friendly game of chess. In June 2015, Donald Trump descended the golden escalator at Trump Tower to announce his presidential bid. Amidst promises to make America great again, he made controversial remarks about Mexican immigrants, stating, "They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists." These comments led to a swift backlash. NBC Universal, valuing respect and dignity for all people, promptly severed ties with Trump, ending their business relationship and removing him from The Apprentice.
When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're not sending you. They're not sending you. They're sending people that have lots of problems, and they're bringing those problems with us. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people.
NBC soon found a new face for the celebrity apprentice. Arnold Schwarzenegger, the former California governor and action star, was announced as the new host, bringing his unique charisma to the boardroom. But Trump, now president-elect, apparently couldn't resist playing TV critic-in-chief. On January 6, 2017, he fired off his first shot via Twitter. The man who was about to get the nuclear codes took time to tweet about TV ratings. Wow, the ratings are in, and Arnold Schwarzenegger got swamped, or destroyed by comparison to the ratings machine DJT. He even threw in a cheeky "who cares," while very clearly caring quite a bit. The spat didn't end there. Trump, during the National Prayer Breakfast, yes, you read that right, asked attendees to pray for Arnold's ratings, because apparently that's what prayer breakfasts are for now.
The president kicked off the National Prayer Breakfast by asking the crowd, a crowd full of lawmakers, religious leaders, and foreign officials, to pray for Arnold Schwarzenegger so that ratings for his TV show, The Celebrity Apprentice, would...
But we had tremendous success on The Apprentice, and when I ran for president, I had to leave the show. That's when I knew for sure I was doing it. And they hired a big movie star, Arnold Schwarzenegger, to take my place. And we know how that turned out. The ratings went right down the tubes. It's been a total disaster, and Mark will never, ever bet against Trump again. And I want to just pray for Arnold if we can for those ratings, okay?
Schwarzenegger's response was swift and sharp. He suggested they swap jobs again, noting that Trump clearly needed the better writers.
Why don't we switch jobs? You take over TV because you're such an expert in ratings, and I take over your job, and then people can finally sleep comfortably again.
Imagine a world where Arnold Schwarzenegger and Donald Trump swap jobs. Arnie in the Oval Office, Trump running The Celebrity Apprentice again. Schwarzenegger, in his thick Austrian accent, delivers presidential speeches with lines like, "We must terminate corruption." Meanwhile, Trump, back in the boardroom, dramatically pointed at contestants and said, "You're weak, you're failing, you're fired, sad." That would be funny. The ratings battle continued throughout the season. The show's numbers weren't great, truth be told, but Arnold had a point when he noted that perhaps the show's association with Trump, who was still an executive producer, might have affected viewership. Many sponsors and celebrities had backed away from the show due to Trump's controversial political positions. By March 2017, Schwarzenegger announced he wouldn't return for another season, saying the show had too much baggage. Trump couldn't resist one final dig, tweeting that Arnold wasn't leaving voluntarily, but was fired by his bad, pathetic ratings, not by him. Schwarzenegger fired back, "You should think about hiring a new joke writer and a fact checker." The whole saga was like watching a political reality show crossover episode, complete with plot twists, character development, and enough drama to fill a season of actual reality TV. The irony wasn't lost on anyone that while one man went from reality TV to politics, the other went from politics to reality TV, and neither seemed particularly happy about the other's performance in their former role. Their feud wasn't limited only to the TV ratings saga. Terminator himself soon went full environmental warrior, and let me tell you, he didn't need any fancy special effects to make an impact. Let's start with the big one. In 2019, Arnold publicly blasted Trump's revival of coal, saying it was about as forward-thinking as bringing back Blockbuster Video. He particularly took issue with Trump's claims about coal jobs, pointing out that more Americans now work in renewable energy than in the entire coal industry. "Coal is the Betamax of energy," he quipped during a speech at the Austrian World Summit.
So, President Trump, I know you really want to be an action hero, right? So take it from the Terminator. You're only supposed to go back in time to protect future generations. Come with me if you want to live. But your administration attempts to go back in time to rescue the coal industry which is actually a threat to future generations. I just read that you want to actually force energy utilities to buy coal power. I mean, this is, to put it in your own terms,
Terrible deal. A horrible one-sided deal. A deal that punishes the United States.
it is foolish to bring back laughable, outdated technology to suit your political agenda. I mean, what are you going to bring back next? Floppy disks? Fax machines? Beanie Babies? Beepers? Or Blockbuster? Yeah, think about it.
The real environmental throwdown came when Trump started rolling back California's auto emission standards. Arnold, who had signed California's landmark climate change law, AB 32, during his governorship, was about as pleased as a bodybuilder finding out the gym only has 5-pound weights. He wrote a scathing op-ed in the Washington Post, defending California's right to set its own standards and calling Trump's actions un-American. He even threw in some classic Arnold-style shade. President Trump is trying to destroy clean air standards that California has wanted since before it even had the right to set them. But wait, there's more? When Trump withdrew from the Paris Climate Agreement, Schwarzenegger released a video message that went viral. He addressed it to President Trump.
One man cannot destroy our progress. One man can't stop our clean energy revolution. And one man can't go back in time. Only I can do that. President Trump says he's pulling out of the Paris Climate Agreement. My message to you, Mr. President, is that as a public servant, and especially as a president, your first and most important responsibility is to protect the people. 200,000 people die every year in the US from air pollution. And that half of our rivers and streams are too polluted for our health. We can't sit back and just do nothing while people are getting sick and dying, especially when you know there's another way. Mr. President, I know that it can be easier and more comfortable to look backwards. And to many people, the past we know is less scary than the future that we don't know. But some of us know what a clean energy future looks like. And it isn't scary. We have seen it in cities and states and all over the world. In fact, we know that the dirty energy future with asthma, emphysema, and cancer is much, much more terrifying. So please, Mr. President, choose the future. No one remembers the people who told President Kennedy not to go to the moon. We remember the great leaders. The great leaders that don't walk backwards into the past, but great leaders that charge forward towards the future. You see, the people will rise up. Local and state governments will rise up. Other leaders from local government will rise up and fill the void that you are creating.
In 2020, during the height of the pandemic, Arnold didn't pull any punches about Trump's handling of the crisis either. He donated $1 million to a GoFundMe campaign for medical supplies and shared a video wearing a "We'll Be Back" mask. See what he did there? He criticized Trump's statement about the virus disappearing like a miracle. Schwarzenegger said that this was just wishful thinking and wasn't a strategy. Unlike his movie characters, you can't just shoot a virus. From what we all saw, Schwarzenegger was right about this. Throughout this period, Arnold consistently emphasized that environmental protection shouldn't be a partisan issue. He often referenced his own Republican governorship, during which California led the nation in environmental protection while growing its economy.
That are much worse than putting Blockbuster on life support. Not only are you forcing an inferior product on the consumers, but you're also propping up a fuel source that pollutes our air, our ground, and our water. And it kills people. 7 million people die every year because of pollution. Listen, I know bringing back the coal industry was one of your major campaign promises.
3 days after the January 6th Capitol attack, Schwarzenegger released a video that hit harder than the T-1000. Sitting behind his desk, with the Conan sword prominently displayed, Arnold drew from his personal experience growing up in post-World War II Austria to deliver a stunning comparison to Kristallnacht. This wasn't your typical action hero monologue. This was Arnold channeling his inner historian and statesman. In the 7.5-minute video that went more viral than a cat playing the piano, Arnold described growing up around broken men drinking away their guilt who had supported the Nazi regime. He shared a painful personal story about his own father coming home drunk and abusive, like many other men who had embraced Hitler's lies. The video wasn't just powerful. It racked up over 48 million views, faster than you can say "Hasta la vista, baby." But here's where Arnold really flexed his political muscles. He pulled out his Conan sword, yes, the actual prop from the movie, and delivered a masterclass in metaphor. He explained how a sword gets stronger the more it's tempered by fire, comparing it to democracy.
Now you see this sword? This is the Conan sword. Now here's the thing about swords. The more you temper a sword, the stronger it becomes. The more you pound it with a hammer and then heat it in the fire and then thrust it into the cold water and then pound it again and plunge it into the fire and into the water, the more often you do that, the stronger it becomes. I'm not telling you all this because I want to become an expert sword maker, but our democracy is like the steel of this sword. The more it is tempered, the stronger it becomes.
Who else but Arnold could use a barbarian's weapon to deliver a lesson in democratic principles? Since then, Schwarzenegger has kept up his criticism of Trump with the same relentless energy he once used as to hunt down Sarah Connor. In various interviews, he's called Trump the worst president ever and suggested that his legacy is in tatters. Coming from a fellow Republican and former governor, these words carried about as much weight as Arnold's maximum bench press, which, for the record, was pretty impressive. Throughout 2024 and into 2025, Arnold has maintained his position as one of Trump's most notable Republican critics. He's done it without losing his signature style, mixing serious political commentary with just enough humor to keep things engaging. After all, who better to talk about preventing the fall of democracy than a guy who literally saved humanity from Skynet multiple times? The ongoing saga between these two larger-than-life figures continues to provide some of the most colorful political commentaries around. While one insists he'll be back, the other keeps proving he never really left the political arena. He just changed his fighting style from action hero to democratic defender.